run away. You start a conversation, you can't even finish. You're talking a lot, but you're not saying anything. When I have nothing to say, my lips are sealed. Say something once, why say it again? Psycho killer, just get singing. Better run, 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 run away.
What's going on, everybody?
Hello, hello.
What is going on? It is Justin here with the Juke Joint, and today we have Travis here, the writer of Broke Down and Four Dead Bodies. And Travis, man, how you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
Same old, man. How you been?
I have been well. It's been nuts, doing this, all these things that I do for Broke Down and for other people's projects. It's exhausting getting it all done and making sure that everybody's aware of what's going on. And this is a shorter campaign, so it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to you on Global Frequencies show the other day. I mean, you got like how many books are you like working on right now?
Wow. So my titles, I have 4, and then other people's titles, another 4. So
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I've got 9 projects in the work. So it's ridiculous. And most of them are at the art stage, not like, oh, I'm writing a script. No, it's not that. It's like people are doing art, sending me to look at stuff and approving things. In fact, I have literally 2 other books in the can as this is launching, as Broke Down is finishing up.
How do you like with all those projects going on? You got a day job and everything, I assume, right?
Yeah. I own a web design company.
How do you balance like all the time with all that stuff between? Because I mean, making books is not easy and it takes up a lot of time, especially with that many projects. Like, how do you?
Yeah. Well, it's not even the projects. It's just the Kickstarter. It's posting in all the groups and sharing all the posts and making sure that everyone gets a message that says thank you for backing. Like all that takes time. And adding new pledge levels and announcing stretch goals. All of that is extra exhausting. So a lot of times what I do is I have to end up paying people to do my web stuff. I've got a couple of guys who I pay to do things. And, I basically, when I'm on a Kickstarter, they know they got a lot more work. And when I don't have a Kickstarter running, they get less work,
Well, right on. Well, let's get in a Broke Down here. Is this the first book that you've written like solely? I know you had that Shadow Flame. I remember during that Indie-tober like 2 years ago, it was something that you'd worked on. So I wasn't sure what like your actual first book was that you actually did.
The first book, comic that I was part of is I was part of a book called Government Bodies. That was my first work in comics. However, this is my first completed book, meaning, from start to finish, written and produced, all 4 issues are mine. I've done a lot of anthologies. I've done a lot of pieces for other people, but I've never had a finished work. So this is my first finished work. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people because I feel like I've been around forever for people who've known me. Like, how could you have not finished something? Especially when you look at like Tyler. Tyler's Tyler Carpenter, our friend. He's a champ. He's got Demons fully done. He's got that sci-fi trade that he just done. He's got the Chef's trade. Like, that guy's producing stuff like crazy. But yeah, this is my first finished stuff. I do have other things that are done, like my Dog Days book is done. But this is the first thing finished coming out for the public.
Right on, right on. Like now, the title is kind of a mouthful, but it flows so perfectly. How did you end up coming up with the title? You just like had the scenario, and you're like, that actually sounds like a good, cool title.
Yeah, well, the main title of the series is called Broke Down, and then kind of this part of it is Four Dead Bodies. So when I do another one, one of the ones I have planned is like Broke Down and Tapped Out. It's a wrestling story. It's a one shot. So that's kind of the Broke Down is the main thing, and then I add the other squad. But it really stems from Heads in a Duffel Bag and the movies Long Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, like that kind of crime thing that is done in the crime genre.
Right on, right. So what were like? I mean, you're a big crime person. Like, what are some of your like favorites, like movies or books wise, that you like draw inspiration from? To come up.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I haven't read a lot of books on the crime subject, which is crazy. When I read books, it tends to be either social commentary or betterment books, or Neil Gaiman, which Neil Gaiman's not crime. But when we talk comic books, Stray Bullets, 100 Bullets were big for me. Criminal was big for me. Those were big crime stuff. And even just on a lower level, Daredevil, reading Daredevil was huge for me and getting all that. More Daredevil than Batman. You can click on that and that'll disappear until a comment comes.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was trying to get some pop.
Yeah, if you just click on it, it'll go away.
Let me see here. That's what I was trying to do.
And then for movies, I'm a huge crime movie buff. So anything by Guy Ritchie, anything by Quentin Tarantino, Doug Liman as well. So Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Layered Cake, The Gentleman, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Killing Zoe. All of those things are really big really big inspirations to me.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know why I can't get this thing to go away.
You've got to go into where it says comics. See where we're in the back end where it says private chat and comments. Click there.
Yeah.
Click there.
Okay. Gotcha. There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, I never had that pop up before. All right. Well, this story is very well, like you guys talked about in Global Frequency, it's very well out of that Tarantino kind of mold. It's you got you got Denver and Randy, the main, pretty much the main characters here, and they're pretty much stuck in a pretty shit situation where it seems like they were pretty much set up. And the end of the third issue, you're kind of getting right into the real meat of it right now. The way the third issue ended, where Washington shows up right before Miguel's about to kill Randy and Denver, and so I remember you saying on the Global Frequency that there's a big kind of twist coming. So I'm kind of curious with that because you have the cases that they talk about, and that Denver and Randy had lost. That was Miguel's case number 19, but nothing in it. But obviously there's something up with those cases. There's something important that's got to be going on with them. It wouldn't just be an empty case. There's got to be some kind of. So I'm kind of looking forward to see where that goes. Well, now as a writer, I always try to pick writers' brains, for myself and for anybody listening. Like when you started writing, how did you teach yourself to start writing?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I started writing in high school. So I was writing. I wanted to be in film. A huge inspiration by Kevin Smith, and I wrote. Like I would write screenplay after screenplay after screenplay. And I remember one of the biggest things is trying to push genres was really hard for me. So I wrote a musical. It was really bad. But it used other people's music. And this is before Moulin Rouge came out. And I remember talking to my music teacher I was like, this would be genius if they sing, but they sing the regular songs that we're listening to. She's like, you can't do that. You'd never be able to get the rights. You'd never be able to do that. And I remember being like, oh, okay. All right, I guess I can't do that. And then Moulin Rouge came out and they did that. I remember when I was in English and I had to write an assignment and I didn't like that I had to declare a perspective right when I started, right? Like this is the guy we're following through this story. I didn't like that. I didn't understand that. That didn't make sense to me because, my primary reading source at the time was comic books. In comic books, you can have word bubbles and thoughts, at the same time. You have the square thought bubbles and then you can have the word bubbles. and you could even have 3 if you wanted. You could have the thought bubbles, and each thing, and Deadpool. You can have 5. You change the colors of each of them, right? But then I looked at that. Game of Thrones became huge, and that's what he's famous for, is switching narratives as we went. So I was always pushing the boundaries and writing my heart out and just trying to find my groove. None of that stuff really got published or really got used, but I just kept working at it, getting good. When I went to film school, that's when I started really doing stuff. Writing, I wrote about 90% of the films that went through the school. Not just because my stuff was good, it was I understood basic storytelling where they didn't. They didn't understand the basic principles. I understood that you needed to start with action and build up from there and trying to figure stuff out. And I just got better at it, as I progressed. Even this, one of the hardest things in comics. Sorry, am I talking? Do you have a question as I'm talking?
No, you're good, man. You're good.
One of the hardest things in comics is an issue 2. Anybody can do an issue 1 because you got your concept and you know where you want it to end. Like, that's really easy. Issue 2 is really hard because there's 2 ways you can do an issue 2. You can do it John Wick style, right? Everything you did in issue 1, up at a level, keep going hard, fast. Let's do that. And that's great. That's a way to tell stories. People love that. But most of the time, you have to go the opposite. So you have to tone it down and then bring it back up before the end of the issue to get you more excited about 3. Because if one you want to really hook them, but then you want to build them back up for your issue 4 or 5 or however long your miniseries is. So that took a while to figure out. Even in my issue 2, like, I love my issue 2, but like, I always feel like, man, if I could do something, something to make it slightly better,
I always felt like issue 2s were like, the first one's always to hook the reader, get you into it, and the second one always seems to kind of pull back slightly and
right.
like build the story more. So I mean, it gets more of a, you get more of a story building, I think, in the second issues. You get more of a depth, a sense of the character building and stuff like that. Now, in Broke Down, you do an interesting thing with time jumping. You do time, and now, how do you balance that? Because I've seen some books that play with time, and it can get jumbled and kind of confusing for the reader. But the way that you do it, it's very fluid, and it makes the pacing, seamless in a way. So, is there a way that you plot that out when you're doing it, or do you just write it out and then kind of go back and storyboard, like, okay, I should put this here or that there?
Well, so I have character maps of all the characters, so I know where they were in their timelines. So they have a timeline of 10 years, and I kind of know where they were during those 10 years. So I can you'll notice in my stuff, though, I don't ever I say this is so many years back, but I never say, I just say now. Like, but now you can clearly tell now is clearly dated, right? Like they're wearing a little 90s. It's not necessarily now. And I do that on purpose because I want to write a story that can fit in any time period for the most part. Maybe the outfits don't look weird, but maybe that's just that guy's style. So that's one of the ways I do it. And also is when I create a book, one of the things that I realized when I started going, all right, I want to do comics as a business. I grabbed all the books that I liked and was like, what do these have in common? And I realized that they all had a feeling to them that was unique. Something made them feel special. And it's formulaic in all of them, like Walking Dead, every 5 issues, there is a death or a war declared. Like, that's just the way it is. Every 5 issues of their story building to the trade. Not that other things don't happen, through 1 through 5, but that's kind of formulaic. So for me, I was like, all right, so my formula for Broke Down is I want to do a flashback that helps you understand what's happening in the story and give that information and picking one character. And so that's the character and by doing that, I help the audience understand this is the character you need to be watching in this issue for whatever reason. So I think that's a big way I do things and kind of revealing information, So in issue 2, you find out that Randy's a con man. Well, that really makes you look at issue 1 a little differently, right? You don't know what he did for crime. You just knew he was arrested. So those things kind of balance each other out. And as I give pieces each time, there's going to be a 4 or 5 page flashback in every Broke Down story to help people around. And that's the other thing that when you talk about other writers, one of the things that I think a lot of them do is they in comics there's a thing called in the pocket, meaning you don't have to show everything. It's okay to just go to the next spot. And a lot of rookie writers, what they'll do is they'll say what's in the pocket. This happens day 1. This happens day 2 and 4 and 5. It's okay. Like that time can be relative. It doesn't matter. The only time it matters if you want to add something in to those days, right? If you had something that needed to happen during that time. Other than that, comics can be, can take place. I mean, look at a Marvel or DC when they're doing an event. You're reading your Spider-Man and you're seeing what's happening in the event. They're not going to line up, and it's okay. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, when I started in the comics, it was when they were doing Metal from DC.
Yeah.
That was like the event I read, and like that's when I started realizing like you had the Batman books that obviously tied into that, but you had the Tom King run, and then in the beginning they had forgot what it was, like a Monster Man or something coming, and you had like Nightwing's story that was tying in. You could buy his issues that connected to the Batman. You didn't have to go together. Sometimes I think it does get a little murky when they do that, when they have so many tie-ins and stuff. Like the Metal books were good. Some of them, like I like the tie-ins with like the Dark Justice League Batmans, like the Batman Who Laughs and stuff like that. But sometimes I think like some of those issues, like it just gets too muddied. I think with a lot of those like tie-in issues and stuff that you don't really need to buy. You know what I mean? So when you're making your characters, like this is another thing that I kind of pick people's brains about. Do you draw inspiration from people you know, or do you pick stuff from like movies you've seen or characters you've seen and you try to give them traits from characters that you've liked over the years, or do you kind of base them off real life people that you've met?
I try to base it off real life people. So my friend Randy's based off my friend Steven he was a friend of mine when I grew up in high school. And one of the things that I loved about him is he was a very good actor. He wasn't like an actor for a profession, but we used to play games and he would pretend to be angry at something and could go angry at a minute and then stop. And I like that. And like he was always trying to hold in his demeanor, like his true self. So I really use that, and Randy's just kind of up a notch, right? So Randy's always very calm and in control, but when he loses it, like in the first issue, he's beat the shit out of Denver, like he loses it. So you've got to get him in that stuff. And even in issue 3, when he finds out that the case is in the water, like he's in the car, everything seems to be fine. They're driving off, and he just hauls it and goes and jumps in the lake. That was my inspiration because he could do stuff like that.
That was the intrigue about the cases, because I was like, if it's an empty case, why is he jumping back in for it?
Right, so, exactly.
That was the interesting part.
And I think we even have that line in that too, where Denver's like, "What do you care about an empty case?" And then he jumps back. So
the second issue ended was great though, with the going in the case. He's like, "All right, it's all done." He's like, "Where's the case?" He's like, "In the car." He's like, "Shit."
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And that my favorite part of that issue is the map page, and that was actually thrown in late on. I felt like when I read it, I didn't feel that Denver and Randy are in like every page of issue 1. And then in issue 2, we invite all these new gangs.
That one, right?
Yeah, that's a great page.
Yeah, it's cool page.
So I was like, damn, we need another page that does stuff. But here's the kicker. I was like, I don't have the money for art. I really don't. Like, so what can I do? So I talked to my letterer, and my letterer came up with that. So that's the cover to issue 2. I don't know what cover you have, but that's the cover to issue 2.
I got this one here for 2.
Oh, okay. So you have the variant. That's the variant. So it's like the main cover for issue 2. It's those 2 guys. We just silhouetted it, put a map there, and mapped it out. And we actually, in issue 4, we actually throw back to that, and we do it again one time because I felt it was such a good thing. But it was really to just add a little bit of dialogue to really help you love these characters, right? Because I realized that when I was introducing all these new characters, you forgot the fun, because Broke Down needs to be fun. Like, we can be crime, but like it's got to be fun. Denver has to say something witty, for it to be a Broke Down issue. So those are things.
It's almost like a buddy traveling movie, like Tommy Boy or like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and stuff like that. Like guys driving that don't really necessarily get along, but like they end up finding a mutual respect, I think, which we might see in 4. Who knows?
Right.
So let's
Hey,
see.
I want to share this. What's your YouTube? I want to make sure I have it. I want to share this out on my thing, my feed.
It's the Juke joint.
YouTube. Okay. I thought I followed you.
The link I put the link out on Facebook and Twitter, so
Okay.
like it's the link to the channels right there.
Right.
Let's see. Now you got an interesting character coming in 4, right? There's a girl that got that.
Yeah. We have our first girl in the series. I mean, we've had girls like the cops a girl and stuff like that, but the first criminal girl is entering the thing. Which I wish I would have got her in sooner because sexy covers, man, they sell. You know, I talked to Larry. You can do it all day.
Yeah. Where'd you come up with the idea to give her that kind of mask?
I don't know. I don't know. I just kind of, that was the idea that I had in my head. And I know that a couple of people have showed that there was similar stuff. There's Beastars, which has like a lot of that stuff. But that was kind of just, I wanted to do something cool. I wanted to, when you're doing crime stuff, when they rob something, they need a mask. They need a cool mask. So I was trying to think of something that hasn't been done that could really express the character. And I thought that mask was really good. I also felt it looked really good because she has an afro to go outside of the mask.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that would be a lot of fun to play with.
Well, that's true. Like Point Break with the dead presidents, or like, there's always like the weird mask, but like, I mean, there's a lot of cool imagery in the book, like with the tattoos. Or I can't remember the one guy's name. I think he's one of the 78.
Miguel, yeah, Miguel.
Well, there's the guy that's got the skull on the back of his head.
Boneyard.
Yeah, it's a cool looking image. Like I like when I see certain like books or even movies, whatever, and they come up with like interesting looking masks or designs for a character that's interesting. Like that was a cool one because when I turned the page, that was the first thing I saw, and I'm like, that's pretty cool because it looks like he's staring at you even through the back of his head, basically. He's got eyes in the back of his head.
Yeah, no, I love that character. He's been a lot of fun to do, and actually, you know what? I'll give you an exclusive here. When we do the trade, he's going to get a small story just about him, and it's going to be written by Chuck Pino.
Oh, nice. Right on.
Yeah. I asked some of my friends to donate short stories for the trade to kind of give you guys something new, when you buy it. So I'm adding actually 20 actual comic pages to the trade.
Oh, right on. That's cool. Now, have you ever watched Forged in Fire on History?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I got addicted to that show, so that's why when the dude slit the dude's neck, was it issue 2 or 3 when he finds out the cape is missing, and I noticed the knife, and I'm like, oh, that's a karambit.
Yep.
Did you know that going into it, or did you give somebody you want?
Actually, I referred to a bunch of knives that were on that show, but our artist, to be fair, Felix Navarra, he lives in Indonesia. The dude loves guns and knives and stuff. If you look at his Facebook, like you're like, this dude shouldn't be writing a crime comic. Like he loves this stuff. It's funny. People take that stuff really seriously. Much like yourself. Oh, I know that knife. There's also a cover. One of the covers that we have for what cover do you have for issue 1?
I think. Give me 1 second.
I don't have it. I have it here.
I got it right here. I got. I think this is the main one.
Yeah, that is the main one. Yeah, that one's gone, by the way. I don't have any more of those.
Right on. It's
so right here.
Oh, okay.
So see that gun? So this is done by Carl Malene. Carl Malene is famous. He's done Buffy, Avengers Arena, Batman, Superboy. Like he's a Marvel and DC pro. He's my pro that I brought in. Well, that little mark right here, right there that I'm pointing to.
Okay.
It says that the safety's on. He's like, so he wouldn't have been able to shoot him. And a cop literally sat with me an hour going how wrong it was. And like, you have to understand it. He's bringing up pictures, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know. It looked cool.
When I got into comics, my old comic shop here, when I started to try to learn how to write, I remember him telling me, he's like, be as truthful and like 100% like honest about everything, because people will like know if you screw something up. Like if you try to do a history of something and you embellish it, like people will recognize it, or the little things like that, like with the safety being on in the gun. It's like those little things that comic book fans always seem to pick up on, like the littlest thing. You're like, oh, nobody will notice that, and then first issue for 10 minutes are like, the safety's on. How's he gonna get shot?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, what plans? I know you got a bunch of books working. You got something, and you said you got stuff for other stories for Broke Down going on. You got another book idea in the works you're thinking about working on, or something, or anything?
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Since I have you and I'm here, and it happened, so we hit our latest stretch goal. So, the latest stretch goal is a magnet for everyone.
By the way, I'll be back tonight. I get paid tonight, so I'm going to be back in it tonight.
Nice. But let me show you what our next stretch goal is. So this is one that's far out, but I really wanted to do it. I'm going to give you an exclusive. Is that cool?
Cool.
So I'm going to show you. It's going to be colored tonight. Let me open it up and then share the tag. What is going on?
So how's the weather down in Florida for you guys?
It's really hot, but not miserable. Just enough to annoy you.
See, that it wouldn't annoy me. I'm so tired of.
Oh yeah. If you're not from here, this is perfect weather.
Yeah.
All right. So let me show you. Let me share screen. Hold on. And then we'll talk about some other stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought this would be cool to talk about. Because why not? I think it's here. You see that?
You know what? I gotta probably hold on a second. Let me exit here. It's probably gotta add the screen.
I think you gotta bring it up. Yeah.
Give me 1 second. There it is. There we go.
Yeah, let me see if I can scroll to make it bigger. No, it doesn't seem to be doing anything.
I made it full screen there to help out a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So what we're going to do, so at the $6,000 mark, which is very, very achievable with our current levels of what we're doing, everyone's going to get that variant for issue 1. It's going to be a complete series.
It looks like the comic page, like the Blue Line comic page.
Yeah. That's drawn on a Blue Line comic page. So this isn't done. This is the premix. It's being colored right now.
Cool. So that's coming with the trade?
No. This is if we get to 6,000, I'm going to give everyone one issue, a free issue 1. That's a Kickstarter exclusive. Trainwreck's in.
Oh yeah, I got Christopher C in the chat.
So everyone's going to get a free issue 1 that's going to be only printed to the number of Kickstarter backers plus 10 for the guy who created it. So all hand numbered, and that's it. There's not going to be any cons. There's not going to be anywhere.
Yeah, I got to say, like, what you're doing when it comes to putting together a Kickstarter. Like, you know how to keep it interesting and keep the backers, like, invested, in the story and stuff, and keep them, like, kind of, like, excited about stuff. You do a real good job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate you. But, yeah, I think this is a cool reward. I wanted to give something back that's adds value to their collection, right? Most people have an issue 1 or they wouldn't be this far in.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been collecting as much since I got into art, but like before I started doing the art, like I was an avid collector. Like every week, like with Image was like my main stuff. I always like the independent stories. That's why I like the indie stuff. Right. I would always buy up, issue 1s here and there, just for the sake of like when I got into comics and like I heard that like the first issue of Walking Dead was selling for like 10,000 or something on like eBay. I was like, oh my God. I was like, if I was reading back then, that's totally something I would have bought. I was like, it's just like
you want to hear the saddest thing? The saddest thing. I was running a comic store at the time of Walking Dead, and I literally looked at it. I remember specifically looking at it, going, "No one will ever read a black and white zombie book."
Nobody thought that. That's what's crazy. It's like a black and white zombie book changed the comic book industry.
Right. And I shouldn't, a lot of people would lie in that situation, say, I knew. No, man, no one knew. I was owning a comic store, and I was like, no, I'm going to order more issues of Guardians of the Galaxy. But this is like pre the Guardians of the Galaxy now, right? like another reboot of the future team, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was. It gets. I think it's because a lot of people. I mean, me personally, at the time, it was like everything was zombies and vampires.
Yeah.
And like people were getting so like burnt out of it. You had like True Blood and all that stuff. And so like I think when it came out, that people were just hearing zombie book. They're like, whatever. But then you read it and you realize it's not. It's completely different than any other zombie story you've ever read, and you read what Kirkman said about it, and it's true. It's like you watch all those Night of the Living Dead or Walking, whatever movies, and okay, great, they got out of the mall. Now what? It's like there's still zombies. It's like what happens now? How do they get food? So that little thing of making it more about humanity than the zombies, it really, that was the first book that really got me into comics, and it's like the stuff Kirkman did with it was just genius. Like the bad guys that he came up with were just absolutely genius. And I thought, even though I thought the Whisperers were a little bit of a letdown, I thought the whole concept of these people wearing skin of dead people walking with the zombies, I was like, nobody's ever done that before.
Right.
That I know of. And I was like, and I remember reading that before it came out on the show, and I was telling people, I'm like, this is like, if they can get this to the show, this could be the first time the show is actually going to feel like a horror movie. Because like this is like they're creepy ass characters, and he just did a brilliant job with it. So I mean, you pull like that when you're trying to come up with like bad guys or whatever. You're trying to come up with something interesting other than just like the 78s. Like
right.
You're trying to give them a little bit of their own flavor to it in a way. Like when you're creating that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point of, broke down, when we continue. I'm going to take a small little break to work on some other projects, but then I'm going to come back and do another run of 5 issues. But it's going to be different because it's going to be one shots, and we're going to skip around in time and do a whole bunch of stuff. But it's the same thing. What if Pulp Fiction didn't end? What if Reservoir Dogs didn't end? What does that look like? How do these stories do it? The kind of the same style of things. And why is these things kind of unraveling these things of why further and further, so that's kind of the main purpose of the whole book, kind of Walking Dead inspired. I think that's what comics do best is we look at something, we're like, what if we took it one step further? Even today, right now, Justice League, right? That Justice League movie, I watched the Snyder Cut today. There is some differences, absolutely, but really it's just, what if we had more time to tell that story and do it in 4 hours?
Well, let me ask you this: I hadn't seen the Justice League movie, or the new one yet to compare it to. And my point going into it, and I could be wrong. I was like, I don't understand if the movie was bad and everybody I talked to, I don't think I've met anybody that really liked the first one. But I was like, how can an editing a movie really change it that much? But apparently, he's done something did change it quite a bit. And like some people are saying it's a lot better than it was. I mean, it's different mixed opinions, but I've never heard somebody give it praise before, So I mean, what did you think? What did you think of it?
I loved it. I loved it. But even with loving it, there's stuff that I loved about the Whedon version that they didn't do. I want to say hi to Nicholas and Christoph and Dio.
Yeah, Dio Brando. Yeah, I got everybody in the chat now. Yeah.
But so the stuff I didn't love that I loved about it, but the stuff that I loved that Josh Whedon did different. But what I did love is this movie had heart and soul. Like Cyborg is the main character of this movie, and that is definitely not in that first Justice League movie. Cyborg, all the characters felt like they were just kind of thrown together versus what they did. So Cyborg is the thing. They really added. Steppenwolf didn't have a lot of reasons why he was doing things. He kept making hints, but this is very clear as day. Hey, I'm working for Darkseid. I'm paving the way. Here's what this looks like. I don't want to spoil cameos and stuff, but he was in the trailer.
Yeah. I always said DC's problem with that, I think, was because they had a knee-jerk reaction to how big the MCU was getting. And the MCU kind of fell into that. Like, that wasn't their original plan to have this all build out, but it kind of just fell into their lap, and the universe grew, and they did it in such a perfect way because you had all the Avengers have their own solo movies, 1 or 2, before they actually got together. So everybody knew the characters and loved them before the Avengers got together. And I just felt like this one with DC, like they were in like panic mode almost, that we gotta do the Justice League movie now without even having the Aquaman movie yet or a Flash movie.
Right.
And it was like, if you want to do what they do, you got to slow burn this. You know, you got to build the characters and build them out and then bring them together. Because it seems like they rushed everything together because Endgame and all this stuff, you know. And I mean, I guess I didn't see the movie, so I mean, don't spoil it, obviously, for anybody. But did they set it up in a way that could continue into more? Because, like I said, if Darkseid's
yeah. This one, unlike the last one, has a full like. Here is what number 2 would be. You know, basically the movie ends and there's another 45 minutes of what would 2 be. You know,
Okay.
basically, if you guys remember that after credit scene, basically imagine that but extend it out and kind of show what their goals and objectives are.
All right, I'm gonna go to chat here a little bit. We got Nicholas Mueller's here saying, "What's up? What's going on,
man?
Nick?"
He's on live on Kickstarter right now as well.
He's which one is it? He's got oh my god,
Raven Hunter.
Yeah,
Mercy, I think.
Raven Hunter Demon, right?
Yeah, yes, that's.
And then let's see, we got Christopher C. He's talking about the Walking Dead issue. Said he's been rocking True Blood and he misses his flip phone.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, we all had those flip phones, but I had the original.
Broke Down has a flip phone in it. It makes appearances in issue 1 and issue 4.
Old school. So maybe we are in the 90s. Let's see. Christopher C says he's watching the cut right now, and he's 2 minutes and 30 seconds in. Well, let us know what you think when you're done, man.
Yeah, I think that's just prior to Superman finally, you know, doing his thing.
Well, to switch over to kind of Marvel, what did you think of WandaVision?
Oh, I loved WandaVision. I think it was a unique way to tell stories. I love the way they did stuff, and especially someone who I'm more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy. Watching that story play out very similar to the way that it did in the comics, you know, was really.
Right?
What's that? House of M is the end of it. Is basically what WandaVision is, but just if you go further back when they had the kids. So basically, what House of M is her getting mad because they made her forget that she had kids, so she wouldn't go crazy, and then she'll remember she had kids, and that's what causes them.
And that's what she says. No more mutants, right?
Yeah. She says no more mutants because it was Professor X.
Yeah, because I mean, there was so. I mean, I know it gets so ridiculous every time they have shows and people with their, you know, the theories and stuff. But you know, I was saying to somebody, I was like, the theories, like the way they do it, like instead of Netflix giving you every show right there so you can binge watch it all. I think there's positives and negatives to both sides of doing it weekly and that. I mean, Netflix has their show set up because they set it up. It's like a movie. You know, every issue or every episode plays right into the next one. And like the Mandalorian, it's like that. It has its overall story, but each episode has its own self-contained story within the whole. And same with WandaVision, you had every weekly, and then you had those. You know, you didn't really get a taste of what was going on until like the 3rd issue. But I mean, I agree. Like I said, when the Falcon and Winter Soldier comes out tonight, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be as like into it at first because the way that they did WandaVision was so unique. You know, the way to do that, and like. It'll be cool to see the Falcon and the Winter Soldier because it can be more action based, obviously. But I love that storytelling they did, you know, with the old sitcoms and everything and how they built that out and all the theories going into it. I mean, I always said that's part of the fun of having weekly shows is going into the theories, trying to figure out and hearing everybody's takes on about is it nightmare?
Yeah, remember Lost? Every week we'd be like, oh my god, this and that.
I'm still of the mind that. I still think Mephisto's going to show up at some point in Phase 4. I don't know. Like, he's such a big bad villain that I was like, I think it would be such a because like the way that Marvel's done their stuff. You know, they had the first Avengers movie, then the second one, then the big Thanos thing. So it's like me, Mephisto. If he's like the first of the first bad guy in the this phase of the MCU, the first Avengers team up, I was like, he seems to me like he would be of a Thanos level. You know, like he should be the overall. Like main guy. I mean, obviously you got Galactus out there and still, so you don't know really how far their plans are, but it would be cool to see Mephisto, I think, because he's such. I mean, he's the devil. You know, I mean, you're a religious person, so I mean, you probably might be a little bit more like into like seeing what this version of him is. You know.
Yeah, but you know what? I like the multiverse. So, in my opinion, who I'd like to see be the big bad in Phase 4. I would like to see Kang, Master of Time. be the big bad. So if we're gonna mess with the multiverse, which we're doing in Doctor Strange, and we know we're doing it in Spider-Man, like that's what I want to see. I want to see Kang come down, and which will be very similar to Thanos, but like better, because I think Kang is right. Like, you guys are messing this shit up the way you messed it. You know, you guys are the bad guys. You know,
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, I mean, if you think about it in the aspect of just like the human race and like what we do and how we like kind of destroy shit, you know, so it's like it makes sense, and that's what makes a good villain. You know, is like he's a bad guy, but he has a moral point in a way. You know, where
look at what they did in Avengers. They brought all these people back 4 years later. Their families. There's divorces. There's also, we've kind of seen what that looks like. You know, even in WandaVision, you know, we have Monica. Her mom died, and she wasn't there. You know.
Yeah. I mean, that was everything. Like I said, what they did with WandaVision was interesting because people are, you know, they still have the mind that they think Wanda's going to be the big bad in the multiverse, or in the, you know, the Doctor Strange movie, which I still think could happen, but I don't think she's going to be the overall. She might start off, because the way WandaVision ended, you know, with her, she's hearing her kids when she's looking into the world. So that made me, right when that happened, that made me believe that they are in the hell dimension or the nightmare dimension. I think it's either going to be Nightmare, because they did say Nightmare was supposed to be the original bad for Doctor Strange in the first one, then they pushed it back to this one, and they don't know with the new director if they kept it.
And Nightmare is a great villain, villain, super, super fun. So I hope it's Nightmare, because as we talked about Mephisto, like, you need a overarching, he needs to be a big bad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it needs to be more than just Ghost Rider, right? Like, Ghost Rider can't beat Mephisto. Like, can't happen. If he did, they wouldn't be a Ghost Rider.
See, my buddy thought that, like, he doesn't think Mephisto's coming because the whole Disney and China with the religious aspect of it. But I'm like, dude, I was like, they can tell it in a way that it's not hell per se, that it's just another dimension. You know, it's not like the technical hell, and he's just the devil or whatever of that dimension. There were some cool, like, we were talking about the theories. There were 2 cool casting rumors I thought would be, you know, if they happen. I don't know if they're actually going to happen. But one of the ones was Mark Hamill might be playing Nightmare. Was one of the rumors.
That would be really fun.
That would be cool. And then the one I thought would be awesome, which I think is a stretch, was Al Pacino as Mephisto. And I was like, because immediately I'm thinking, you know, interview, or what's it called? The Tom Cruise movie with Pacino. I was like, The Devil's Advocate.
Yeah.
So immediately I'm like, dude, if they could get Pacino to play Mephisto, I honestly can't think of anybody better, you know, to pull that character off, you know, being evil. And
but it kind of feels like, so the guy who, I can't think of the name, the actor, but the lead guy, Odin in American Gods, played it in the first Ghost Rider movie, and it's basically the Al Pacino character, right? I don't know. It's so interesting. I'm so stoked for Spider-Man. Like, all the other ones I can care. Like, if you are bringing back Doc Ock and you're bringing back those other Spider-Man and putting them in a Spider-Verse, I am so excited, especially if you give us a Miles, right?
Yeah.
You give us all those ones and then you add a Miles. Oh, I am ready.
Let's go to the chat here. We got some Nicholas Muller here. The only thing I didn't like about WandaVision was the twins with Quicksilver. I was so excited then. Otherwise, I really enjoyed it overall. Yeah, it kind of was a little bit of a thing, but I honestly think that the fact that they gave him the name Ralph Boner makes me think that he's the informant that, what was that agent? He says they have like a person in protective custody inside. I think that's who he is. And I still think there might be some kind of connection, you know, to X-Men in some way. I mean, we'll see. I thought if they really named him Ralph Boner, I thought that was so stupid. But I was like, there's got to be
I think it was a fun play for for us, you know, for us thinking we're smarter than the people.
That's true.
Know.
That's true. I mean,
I think it was good. My wife actually hadn't seen the X-Men movies, which is crazy, because if anybody who knows me, literally I have a Magneto shrine in my house. It's a shrine of Magneto, which she's never seen anything.
Could they really bring Magneto into the MCU? He'd kill everybody. I mean, like, I've seen Iron Man's gone, but there's that little like 3D. It's like a Super Nintendo bit. I don't know if you've ever seen the clip, but it's like why Magneto can't work in the MCU. So it's like him showing up and like the Avengers there, and he's like, I'm Iron Man. And he's like, really, a man encased in iron? He like just shoves him into a ball, and then Thor shows up and he grabs Thor's hammer and hits him in the nuts with it, and he like rips Bucky's arm off. It's like every character in the MCU has metal, so it's like Magneto could literally kill every one of them, like the way they were working. It was just it's a kind of funny little it's like a little 2D. It looks like a Super Nintendo game the way that it was put together, but it gets kind of funny because it makes sense. I mean, Magneto, if he can control metal, then Iron Man would be useless against them. You know, and so many characters like Bucky would technically have his arm ripped off. You know, and like Falcon wouldn't be able. I mean, they all have some kind of metal, you know, on them.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was thinking that what they could do with the multiverse is really have mutants, or with time travel. You know, they can have mutants where basically, and here's what I thought Endgame was going to do. I thought Endgame, my ending for Endgame was pretty much everything the way that played out, because I thought there was going to be some sort of time travel thing. Cap going back and saying, we need heroes that are born with this ability, and using a stone and making that happen. And then mutants would have been here, but he does it with the time stone, saying that they should have always been here. So you add them through time. The mutants.
I heard a rumor that I guess we'll find out tonight. But in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that Omega Red is in the first episode. So if that's the case, then that means wouldn't that mean the mutants already exist in this world in a way, and maybe they've just been hidden?
Well, I mean, they kind of imply in WandaVision that she's a mutant, like that she didn't get the powers from them.
Yeah, it's true. It's like she was, you know, she got her powers from the actual Scarlet Witch or whatever it was that, you know, gave her that ability. Let's see, go more with the chat here. Dio Brando says Kang would be awesome to see. Nicholas Muller says, isn't Kang teased in Loki? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah,
I think Loki is really just there to show that you can recast Loki. I don't think they plan on recasting Loki. I just think that they want to show that you can.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing his show because I think his show could be the potential where you see, you know, something like Nightmare or Mephisto or something like that, because they even teased it in that one picture image of Loki where the devil's behind them in the stained glass window. There's a one image. So, but again, Marvel knows that the fans go nuts with theories, so it's like like you were saying before with Quicksilver, it's like they do stuff intentionally to kind of troll the fans. You know, so it's like when we first saw Quicksilver, I remember me and my roommate were like, "Holy shit, does this mean the X-Men are here? Like, what's going on? Like, why does she, you know, this and that?" And then they did the whole Ralph Boner thing. So it's like, I still think that they did that to make us all be like, "Oh, what a tease!" And then they're gonna bring it in, you know, and they kind of like throw everybody off the scent, you know. Let's see.
Well, I think you're right. I think that's really important. What concerns me is Black Widow. Normally, every Marvel movie is important to the bigger brand, but it seems to be if they can move forward with other stuff, unless they rewrite stuff, Black Widow isn't important, right? We know there's an Iron Man appearance. You know, that was, you know, he said that. But, you know, and then we get Cap back, I guess. Cap's willing to come back.
I did hear, though, another rumor that in the Black Widow movie, we might get the introduction to the Red Room, where they create, like, isn't that where I don't think I've read that. I've read some X-Men, but I've heard
that's where they create. Well, the Red Room, they create soldiers. So it's been used in the X-Men, but it's primarily used for, you know, Soviet soldiers. So anybody who's Soviet of nature tends to be part of that, you know, from Crimson Dynamo to Omega Red to, you know, to all the Black Widows.
Because they were saying, you know, the Black Widow movie's coming, and I'm like, well, they'd have to have something in there that's going to connect to this part of the MCU. Otherwise, it's just kind of like the finaling ending of her story, which I don't know. I mean, if you like the character, that's great, but it's like it's not that interesting to me personally if it's just like her story and it has no tie-in to everything else, you know.
Yeah, I think its purpose is to give us a new Black Widow, to give us the blonde Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
So when she shows up later, like we know who she is in her story.
Right on. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's cool with the theories, like I was saying, to speculate on all that stuff. Like, for instance, Nicholas Muller here saying he wants Danny DeVito as Nightmare. But I thought he was going to be Wolverine. Isn't that the images everybody?
Danny DeVito is Wolverine all day long. Hashtag Danny DeVito is Wolverine.
Christopher C. Saying he's thinking that McFarlane ever made that Spawn movie and DeVito isn't the clown. I'm going to burn down Canada.
What I hear, California is coming close to burning it down every year. So, I mean, it's just a matter of time.
I mean, it was, the first Spawn movie, I remember back in the days, I remember seeing it in the theaters, and it was a good movie back then, and like Leguizamo it was awesome as the Dominator. I thought he was perfect as the Dominator. So I mean, they have to if they do redo it. Dude, I don't think anybody doesn't trust what McFarlane does at this point. You know, I mean, the guy's got such a track record of knowing what the hell he's doing. And
my only issue, I had one issue with the Spawn movie. Only issue is I love Chapel. Like Chapel was my favorite character, and to replace it with this chick priest really just drove me crazy. Especially when, as a young mind, I couldn't understand. All right, so we got the comic as Chapel, you've got the animated series in a Chapel, and then randomly it's not. Like you're like, what?
Wow. I never saw the Spawn TV series back in the day, the cartoon. So I always heard that was.
It's so good, so good.
Yeah, I got HBO Max, and I should probably watch that. But yeah, I saw him breaking down like when he was talking about seeing Venom for the first time in the Raimi Spider-Man 3, and then when he does the transformation and how disappointed he was. And then when he saw the one with Tom Hardy, and he was like waiting for the transformation, and he was just like, yes, yes, yes. He's like, even if you don't like the movie, he's like, this is what Venom is supposed to be. He's like, he's supposed to be this giant gorilla, menacing figure, not less slim down, you know, whatever. But so, I mean, I'm interested to see where he goes with that. But yeah. So
I love, though I don't like the Sam Raimi Venom. I agree. I'm with everybody else. I do love the scene in the church. I love that scene. That is so Eddie Brock. The God, if you could just do one thing for me, kill Peter Parker. Like it's so good.
And Raimi's isn't he doing the Multiverse of Madness?
He's doing one of them. It's probably. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I know he was doing one.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that because I mean, those were good movies. I mean, the first two were good. I mean, everybody's got their mixed opinions on it. It was like the first Spider-Man inclination, but I mean, who's your Spider-Man? You like Tobey Maguire or you like Tom Holland?
That's a hard one. I like Tobey Maguire. I'm gonna pick Tobey Maguire, but I think Andrew Garfield was the best in the suit, like wit and stuff like that. I think he's got the best jokes, but I think Tobey Maguire. Tom Holland really pulls off the mix of the two, the best out of all the people. Because Andrew Jackson, that movie, Amazing Spider-Man, had me pissed off in 5 minutes. Here's what happens. I'm going to explain it and how mad I got. So we're sitting here. We're in school, Midtown High, right? We've got Peter Parker. He's on a skateboard. Doesn't bother me. You modernize the kid. Here's where you piss me off. A teacher goes to Peter Parker. Hey, no skateboarding. So he picks it up. The teacher walks off camera. He gets back on his skateboard. No, Peter Parker doesn't break rules. Like if he breaks rules, so I was angry, like livid, like just watching within 5 minutes of Amazing Spider-Man.
Did you walk out?
I didn't walk out. I love superhero movies too much to walk out, but I was so mad. Yeah, I was so mad because when you look at like Tobey Maguire just can't. He's not good at jokes. He just doesn't. He just doesn't have the timing. He's a great Peter Parker, but he doesn't have the jokes. But when you get Andrew Garfield and you started adding the jokes, he was really good at it. You could believe that both people were the two. But again, he was too cool to be Peter Parker. You know, where I think that's where Tom Holland really resonates both. He's definitely not cool enough to be Spider-Man, but he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, Peter Parker's always been like the awkward, nerdy kid.
Right, so exactly.
So, isn't there? I think there's rumors too with this new Spider-Man movie because it's going to connect, I think, to the multiverse. They were saying in some capacity that there were rumors that Tobey Maguire was going to be coming back in some capacity because if they're doing a multiverse, you could do almost the Spider-Verse that they did in the animated show, the animated movie that everybody.
Yeah, that's the rumor. Is all of them are going to come back and they're going to do super villains. My concern about that is Sony's not been great when you give them multiple villains. Every time they get multiple villains, things get bad. And I don't know why they keep wanting to do it. Stop.
What's your best example of that where they dropped the ball?
Any of them, like Sandman and Venom, horrible. Like Sandman would have been a great villain. Or if you gave Venom more time, maybe we could have made
Oh, you froze a little bit. Uh-oh. Did we lose Travis? Uh-oh. Hey, Travis, if you hear me, I'm gonna reboot you. I'm gonna kick you out and bring you back in and see if that works. Hello? Oh, I think we lost
Sorry,
Travis.
my internet likes to pop out
There you
once
go.
a night just for funs.
There you go. Hold on. You want to repeat that? You froze.
All right. So
Yeah, the last-
let's
the
start
last
at the
one-
first time they did it. So the first time they did it was Sandman and Venom. That was a great Sandman movie. But then you add Venom and then a horrible Green Goblin subplot, and you make that movie bad. Right? It wasn't just that Venom was bad. It was that you added the Green Goblin subplot all at the same time and tried to force all that down our throat, where the first two, Green Goblin and Doctor Strange, were fine. And even when you look at it, on the DC side, the same problem resonates there. The more villains they added, the worse they got. It just seems to be the way it is. Then you do it again in Amazing Spider-Man 2. You have literally Green Goblin, who just comes out of nowhere. You have Electro being the main villain. Like, it's just crazy. And this crazy Green Goblin that comes out of nowhere, go ahead and he kills Gwen Stacy. So this dude who doesn't even matter to the plot, kills Gwen Stacy. Like, what are you doing? So doing it, I think, for Amazing Spider-Man is gonna be rough. I don't think they're gonna get it. I still don't think they've learned their lesson.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to advancing comic book characters and try to make them true to make everybody happy, but not do it in the exact same way where everybody who's read the books knows. So yeah, that's what kind of scares me with the new Batman movie they're making. As I heard, there's like Catwoman's in it, Joker's in it, or not Joker, Penguin, Riddler. It's
Right.
like they're adding too many bad guys. It's like unless it's somehow, I heard that they're trying to do it where they can set it up for the future and to have little cameos. But it's like I'm hearing all these villains in the first Batman movie. I'm like, that just seems like too many. But we'll have to see how they balance that. Let's see. I've got Dio Brando. You're saying Spider-Man 3 was supposed to be way different, but they didn't let Sam do what he wanted to do and basically made him add Venom. What was his original plan? Do you guys know?
He wanted to do Green Goblin and to finish that arc. He wanted to do Hobgoblin and he wanted to do Sandman. He couldn't do Hobgoblin because of the brown of Sandman.
So he was going to take Osborn's kid. I can't think of his name right now. He was going to turn him into the new Green Goblin.
Hobgoblin, yeah.
Hobgoblin. Right on. What'd you think of the No Way Home? Well, with you finally got to see. Oh my God, now I'm blinking. The bad guy who played
Mysterio.
God, I couldn't think of his name.
Yeah, no, I loved Mysterio. I thought Mysterio was really well written, and especially for people who don't read comics. Like my wife doesn't read a lot of the comics that I have. She's more of a DC person. She thought Mysterio was a good guy the whole time. Like, she really bought into it. And she thought they were just fighting these crazy elements, because element fighting is something that happens in superhero movies. Like, none of that's strange. So her buying it, and then us, as fans, for me, who loves the Marvel MC cinematic universe, watching all the people that Tony Stark has been shitty to in all the movies taking out on Spider-Man is fantastic. It's so good.
Well, let's see. Anything? Let's see. Christopher C. Last comment here. I'm sorry, but any chance you get to squeeze into Defoe, you spit on the side of it and cram? I like Defoe. I mean, depending on that movie. I mean, obviously, I'm not a lifelong comic book fan, but Defoe, I always like. Platoon always comes to mind when I think of him.
I mean, when I think of Defoe, yeah, absolutely. No, it's Spider-Man for me. When I think of Defoe, the first thing I think of, do you know how much I've sacrificed? Like, and then I think of Boondock Saints. Then Boondock Saints. But first, it's
first Boondock Saints. I didn't like the second one. The second one was kind of. But anything else you want to add? Anything you got going?
Yeah, sure. So besides the Broke Down Kickstarter, which only has 3 days left, guys. So if you haven't checked it out, now's the time. You guys got that stimmy. give me a try.
Link,
You know?
yeah, link is in the description of the video too for the Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's brokedowncomics.com. You know, you don't have much to type. You guys should be able to spell that. Brokedowncomics.com. Two guys break down on the side of the road. Lots of guns, lots of violence, lots of F-words. Lots of fun. As Justin said, I was a religious man. If you read Broke Down, you will not think I'm a religious man, which is fantastic.
Yeah, you can't. You wouldn't guess that at all reading that. You're like, wait a minute, somebody religious wrote this? A lot of swearing and killing.
I love swearing and killing. I'm a fan.
What's it saying that smart people tend to swear more?
Right, exactly. So the next Kickstarter after this is we're doing Voodoo Nations 2. So anybody who backed Voodoo Nations, we're back with the sequel. So that's about 2 missionaries go to Brazil. They meet a guy named Bishop Lucas. That dude messes up their day, does a lot of crazy stuff, messes up their marriage, and now they're going to New Orleans to try to save it. But they run into even more voodoo priests. So hence why it's Nations, not Voodoo Nation. There's all sorts of voodoo priests all over the place. We'll see how it all ties in together, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And when does that one launch? Or when does the second? You get the second issue, right?
So the second issue. So it really depends on how soon the printer can print Broke Down. Because I don't start anything new until at least 50% of my backers get their stuff. Which, by the way, your Cthulhu Invades Oz is in the middle.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I know you're not worried about it. I think I posted it on the Indiegogo.
All right, cool. Yeah, because my dumbass ordered 2 books like an idiot.
Right. Did you get your refund yet?
I'd have to double check. I'm not too worried, but right. I'm sure it popped in there.
Worst case scenario, I'll give it to you if it doesn't happen.
Don't worry about it. But yeah, I want to.
But the last thing is I've got Cthulhu Invades Wonderlands coming out later this year, so start looking for stuff on that. I've got a new book called Expired that you're going to see coming out. I've got, if you guys like Brian Silverback, Loggerhead, I did a short in his new thing called Carol Prime that comes out in April. So all over the place. I've got tons of comics doing it. I write comics. That's what I do.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was good talking to you. It's like that's why I like doing some of these interviews, because like you and Chuck and some of the guys, I've known you guys for a couple of years now, but I never actually had to sit down one-on-one with you guys. So it's kind of nice to like pick your brains and see where you guys come from, you know. This is the thing I was trying to work on. I still got a lot more to go. There's kind of like the mask.
Okay.
I put that. Let me back up a little bit. Yeah, the gouache takes a lot. I'm learning about it. Like it's still muddy, but there's probably 3 more layers I got to go on each thing. So before it actually.
Nice, show me. If we get it done in time, put it in the book. I'll put it as a pinup.
Wow, right on. Yeah, I'll try to get it done tonight then.
Well, and I mean, you got more time. Don't rush it. You've got time. No. You know, I don't go to print for a couple weeks after we're done.
Yeah, so. I mean, I'm trying right now. Like I'm practicing with the gouache so I can maybe start getting some commissions this year. I did one last year for a guy in a boys group. I drew Homeland, sent it to New Orleans, which was pretty cool. But I was like, I want to try to get more commission work this year. But I was like, if I can get my coloring on top of my like line work all together, then it'll be even better. But so yeah.
Well, I thought your little crime thing that you did with Tyler back in the day was really good.
Oh, the little short story.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun to do. That was like the first thing. It was cool to see it actually come to life, because that was the first thing ever written that like I was like, holy shit, I'm actually like looking at what I wrote. You know, I was like, it was pretty cool. I mean, before that, my biggest oh my god moment was I had a letter hack in Violent Love by Frank Barbary.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I ended up getting an interview with him a couple years ago on a podcast. I was at the DMV, and I was putting out all these like requests for interviews from like image writers and DC writers, and I get this reply back from Frank being like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to come on." And I was like standing in line at the DMV, and I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" And then people turn around, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry." But I'm actually trying to get him back on. I actually reached out to him a little bit ago, see if he's got new projects. But yeah, so fucking go back. Broke Down 4 Dead Bodies. Follow Travis. I got his your Twitter and your Instagram, Jester Lou. I got those in the description next to the Kickstarter.
Yeah. And if you're back at just to let people know about the reward. So right now, because we've unlocked 2 stretch goals, so even if you get an issue, and you can get issue 1 if you don't want to buy issue 1, 2, 3, and 4, you can buy just issue 1. We have a special edition for this one that's prestigious, and what that means is it's spot UVs. You're going to be able to touch it. So there's gunshot wounds and gunshots, and you'll be able to touch that. It'll be raised on the page. So it's a higher gloss, cover we're redoing issue 1 for that. So it's the same as he's got for the car, but now there's gunshots on it. You're also going to get, and this is one of the coolest things I've ever done for rewards, we're going to write people in character letters on a postcard from Canyon City. We have a friend in Canyon City. He's going to mail it out from Canyon City. So you'll get a postcard from one of the characters in the comic. So Denver or Randy or Miguel will write you a postcard and send it to you, which I think is dope.
This is what I do with that's what I do with my bumper sticker.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
It's on my paint palette.
I had someone buy 100 of those and sell them at a like a barber shop because they're like a suburb of Canyon City and they make fun of it. And he's like, I don't care about your comic, dude. Like, I just want that design. And apparently, a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a niche because people that don't even read the comic, they'll see that live in Canyon City and be like, oh, it's kind of cool. You know,
right.
Oh, it's people dying. But yeah, so
yeah, I want it. And then the last thing is you get a magnet, so you get a logo magnet. So that's just if you back for the lowest physical level.
Cool, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Everybody, go back, Broke Down in 4 Dead Bodies, and follow Travis on Twitter. And what's the Facebook group you guys run? It's Indie Comic Conspiracy, right? Indie
Comics Conspiracy is the one you'll find me in the most. Yeah, that's the one that I talk about a lot. I actually don't run that. I'm very active in it.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Which is the one where you created Indie-tober?
It's Indie-tober. Indie-tober. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's Indie-tober, but that's not. It wasn't really associated with Indie Comics Conspiracy. That's just the one that I have the best relationship with. So I knew I could get a lot of people to jump on. You know, and Indie-tober is something we do every year. I run it just because I don't consider myself like a big deal, but I've got a little bit of a clout. And I know people want to work on like my Cthulhu Invades Oz, and they want to do that. So this is what I kind of use as an audition. I allow people to get their characters drawn for the month. So if you submit your indie character, you know, we take 30 of them, and you can draw those characters. It's a lot of fun. Everyone who loves it loves seeing other people draw stuff. I think you've been part of the group.
Yeah, I've done it for 2 years. Like I was always wanting to do was it Inktober? But then you created that like right when I was ready to go. I'm like, you know, that'd be more fun because like I'm trying to practice coloring. So it's like I could do these in color and stuff. And yeah,
it'll get you a commission. It'll get you a commission one day. You just keep doing it.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. Is like doing that. Plus, you're networking with people. You know, you're tagging their characters out, and they can see what you can do. So yeah, like I said, I'm trying to do all that stuff as I can. You know, try to get some of my artwork out there, maybe get some little bit of commission work going. But yeah, dude, I appreciate again you coming on, and we'll have to have you on again at some point. I'm trying to do like some kind of coloring stream with people where we pick somebody's like Ichthus does a coloring stream on Sundays, and I told him we could do something where we get like in like I was talking to Stoney about this, like when I interviewed him, since he did the coloring on some of the Oz. I was like, we need to get together. Like pick one image from somebody's book that's going on right now, and we all color it on a stream, and then compare like everybody's colors at the end of it.
I think that would be dope. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I don't think nobody's doing that either.
No, I mean, like it's because like when I first got on with Tyler back in the day when his channel was a little small, we used to do those like live streams, which I think this is where I first met you. And so
I used to be very active in Tyler's community.
Yeah, since he's gotten a little bit bigger, I mean, he doesn't do them as often, which is understandable. But I was like, with my channel, I was like, I kind of wanted to start getting back to doing some of that. But as soon as I get a little bit better equipment here, obviously, I just got my new green screen, which you see behind me. But So appreciate it, man, again. And everybody in the chat, thanks for coming by. And we'll talk to you later.
Thank you. All right.